They landed troops. And then we went to Iwo Jima. Iwo Jima is the place where there was a mountain.
Mount Suribachi.
Suribachi, right. Now, they called for us to fire 16-inch guns at that mountain. They had a certain spot they wanted us to hit.
Yes.
Well, I watched it, and the shell hit, but it just made a tiny little puff because that island was nothing but ash. And matter of fact, I have an idea that shell is still there, but it didn't explode. So when it went in and hit that ashes, that was it.
Yeah.
But whether it did what they thought it was going to do, it didn't. But we was close enough that we could see. We could even talk to the people in the barges as they went ashore.
So you were probably firing before they launched the invasion, do you think?
Yeah. Yeah. They always tried to soften up, but them Japs were all in caves.
Yes.
And I think of all the planes that went over there and dropped bombs, I don't think they did any good at all.
I don't think so.
So now when they raised the flag, we could see it.
Did you?
And I think every ship that was around there blew its horn.
Yes.
So they was glad to see that. But one instance, a lady told me some people were getting ready to go home, and they took all their guns and ammunition away from them and put them in a kind of a tent to where they would stay the night, and then they would leave the next morning. And during that night, the Japanese crept up on that bunch of people. And I guess they probably killed all of them. But this lady told me that, and I said, well, that's something I didn't know.
Was that on Iwo Jima?
But it happened, yeah, yeah. But we would go from Iwo Jima back to the Philippines whenever they needed us. And then when we'd get low on ammunition, they'd send us back to another island. So we did a lot of traveling. And then when they hit Okinawa, we was one of the first ones in there.
Were you?
We bombed and strafed all of that shoreline in there for them. Now what they call the Shuri Castle. I've talked to somebody and they knew exactly where that castle was. And they said it was pretty well tore up.
Yeah.
I said, well, we had a pretty good shot at it. But Okinawa was a rough battle. Now, we was on watch the whole time. Those aircraft guns were ready, and they were loaded. And this one occasion, there was 4 planes that came over, and the air defense shot down 3 of them, and the 3rd one crashed on our ship.
Oh, really?
It killed 4 men and injured about 20. But where he hit wasn't really a vital spot.
Really?
But the bomb that he was carrying went down on the 2nd deck, which was a solid steel deck. And it burst into 3 pieces. So they gathered it up and threw it overboard. But nobody was hurt because of the bomb. But it took about an hour before the commanding officer says, well, we're ready back in service. But we was on watch for them suicide planes.
Yeah.
We, according to the records, we shot down 10.
Really?
Now, one occasion, usually when you anchor, you're in what you'd call a pretty safe place, and everybody's relaxed, but you still have an air defense.
Yes.
And this one particular time, on the very end of the ship is a 20 millimeters, and they're single barrels, and there's one on the port, one on the starboard. Well, this particular day, this man, he got into that hoist. He was already strapped in, and he was making out like he was shooting planes. Now, it was ready to fire. It already had a roll of ammunition on it. All he had to do was pull the trigger. Well, all of a sudden, this airplane came in about 20 feet. He came in from over the mountain, and he was about 20 feet heading straight for our midship. That's the middle of the ship.
Yeah.
And this man started firing. You don't supposed to start firing until you hear the command, commence firing.
Yes.
Well, he started firing before he even heard that, before I heard it. And nobody ever said anything. But to this day, I believe he shot down that plane. But that plane went down just before he got to the ship.
Yeah.
And the joke is that we didn't send nobody out there to check the pilot. So I think if they'd have got him, he would kill himself anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
But
Well, so kamikazes were always a threat when you were in that vicinity, weren't they?
the kamikazes were more or less after the aircraft carriers.
Yes.
Now, they didn't really bother us too much because we was well prepared for them.
Yeah.
But they give the aircraft, the ships a fit. And but we would go back and forth to different places, and then we'd give out ammunition, give out a food to feed that many people, 3
Sure.
meals a day.
Sure.
It takes a lot of food. So we'd go back and get supplies, and then we'd go back again.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a continuous thing. But we got 3 medals for Okinawa. We got 1 for Iwo Jima, and we got 1 for the Philippines. So we had 5 medals that we was awarded. But now, towards the, I'll tell you about, we was in the Philippines, and I'd say about 400 of us got diarrhea.
Oh, yes.
Now, how many pills did they issue? There must have been thousands. And there are what we call the head, that was the toilet.
Yeah.
It had 5 places to sit, and those places were filled every day. They usually cleaned everything out so they could clean it up, but they didn't clean it. They just left it open.
Yeah.
Now, after I don't remember where we were, but we was in one of their places, and they had signed the treaty, and we left, I'll say, the Philippines, and we went to Tokyo. Now, Tokyo Harbor is encased with a land, and there's one place that you could get through to get to the docks. and we left, I'll say the Philippines, and we anchored outside of Tokyo Harbor. We stayed there for 2 days, and we went to air defense morning and night because we didn't know what they was going to do. We had no idea. And then when the Missouri came,
Yeah.
they had to send a pilot out for that ship to go in to the harbor. And when the Missouri went in, then we went in after that. And we was anchored fairly close to the Missouri. But we was there when the treaty was signed, and all the papers, they talk about the airplanes that was flying. Well, it was. The sky was just full of airplanes.
Full of them, yeah.
And we left there and went back to Okinawa and picked up some people that was going to be discharged.
Uh-huh.
Then we stopped at Pearl Harbor and picked up some more. And we went in at San Francisco. When we crossed under the bridge, the Golden Gate Bridge,
Yeah.
all that bunch of people were standing outside, and they hooped and hollered.
I guess so.
And but when myself, I got off of the ship, and I was going to be discharged.
And what date was that? You remember?
It would be 46, sometime in 46, I guess.
Okay.
But the ship went back to Pearl Harbor 3 times
Oh, really?
to bring back people that
Troops.
was going to be discharged.
Yeah.
And I guess they took some of them to different places. But when it went back, last time it went to Seattle, and that's where they put it up for, I guess they put it up for scrap,
I think they did.
but
Yeah.
they took it apart.
Yeah.
But
I want to go back to one question that I don't think I asked you. When you had this shell that was 1,000 pounds, how did you get it over to the winch to lift it?
okay, you don't actually lift it. It stays standing up.
Okay.
Now it has a metal cap on the top of it, and that metal cap has to come off before that shell will fire. And we moved that shell across that deck standing up. Now if that shell ever turned over, I don't know what happened. I don't think it would fire because the shell part that exploded was still attached.
But you didn't want to try it.
No, the rope was attached to one side, and the hoist was on it.
I
And
see.
we wrapped that rope around it and slide it
I see.
across that floor
Okay.
till it come to that hoist. Now each turret fired 4 times. So that's 4 shells that I had to bring across to that place and send it up.
And then you would communicate with the person on deck.
Yeah. Now each shell has 5 bags of powder, and that's what makes the shell go. Now when you're sending that shell at 15 miles, that's a lot of force.
Yeah.
And we were shooting all 8 guns in 10 minutes. In a 10-minute time, they fired 16 shots. But when they saw that ship turning, then they quit shooting. So they figured they had done about all they could do.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
Well, when you look back on that experience, you know, you were a young person when you went into the service.
yes, ma'am.
You were a lot wiser when you came home.
Well, I'll say I won't say I enjoyed it, but the experience was there. And right now, see that cap?
Yes.
We have a cap that is similar to this, that has got World War II, and people tell me when they wear that hat, if they go in a restaurant, somebody will say, "I'll buy you dinner for you." So
I think people are getting more and more
well,
appreciation for what went into that.
see, I'm 92, and most of the people went in at the beginning, and they got to be considerable older than that, so they're passing off fast. So it just.
But every veteran that we talk to has some role that is just vital to the whole process. And yours is a typical example of you've got to do your job safely, you've got to do it correctly,
Well,
or the plan doesn't work.
on a 40 millimeter, that's got four barrels.
Yeah.
Okay. When you see, or when a plane is coming, you got a pointer and a trainer and 4 loaders. Now you have those bullets. I'll call them bullets.
Yeah.
They're in stacks of 4, and they'll stack right into that gun, and it automatically fires. Now that gun is controlled through a common where he watches the target, and he's the one that fires that gun. But now 20 millimeter is fired by yourself. You're the one that does all of it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but it's there was about four ships, I believe, that was sunk at Pearl Harbor, and they had them raised. They had all of them raised except in the one that's still there. But that was a tremendous thing for them to raise those ships. Now, the West Virginia, when it sunk, it went straight down. It didn't turn over or nothing. But the report is that it was hit by 6 torpedoes and 2 bombs. Now, the bomb that they used, they took a 16-inch shell, and they took all the insides out of it and put a tail on it and stacked it with some high explosive. And that's what hit the, what's that ship that's still there? Arizona.
Arizona.
That's the one that blew the Arizona apart. One bomb blew the Arizona apart. So it's just something that they did, and they did it all on a surprise.
You sure did.
But it's just amazing. But
How do you think that whole war experience affected you the rest of your life? Did it solidify your value system or your patriotism, or?
well, I belong to a group of veterans. It's the VA.
Yes.
And we have a meeting once a month.
Do you? That's wonderful.
And I go to that meeting, and then they have places in Gainesville. They have a hospital there, and I've been there to that. And they also have one in O'Kellon, where you can go, and because I'm a veteran, I can get a lot of stuff. Now I've got a, I guess you call it a book, and my daughter orders me these things that goes in that book, and I listen to that quite a bit.
That's wonderful.
But I got that. I got 2 pair of dark glasses. I got all kinds of things to make your eyesight better. But
Yes.
I got a little light that they give me, and all that's free. And it's free for any veteran who wants to go and pick it up.
Yeah.
Of course, they ask you a bunch of questions, but I tell them like it is.
Sure.
So,
Well, is there anything else that you want to put in this segment of your interview that I haven't asked about? The story went very smoothly because you seem to remember all of the details in order. That was very helpful.
well, I wrote me some notes, but I can't read them. Oh, I'll tell you about Tokyo Rose.
Oh, yes, I've
You ever
heard of
hear
her.
of Tokyo Rose?
Certainly have, yes.
Well, we could pick her up, and we listened to her on the radio.
On the radio, yes.
And she had a real soft voice, and she would play soft music. And she would say, all you soldiers that's down in them foxholes, you're bogged down in mud. Why wouldn't you like to be home with your wife and kids? She just went on like that for hours and hours. And of course everybody just laughed. But she was something else. I don't really know what happened to her, but I know that she made a statement after we had been into several places that she was going to send some ships to sink the West Virginia. So, but we laughed.
Can't fool us.
Now the captain of my ship, I never saw him the whole time I was assigned to that ship. Now,
He was busy bending the propeller.
they had, no, I didn't even see him then. They had the officers' quarters,
Yeah.
and he got from the officers' quarters up to the main pilot house, and I don't know how he got there. Now we had a group of Marines, and it was their job to guard him, I guess. But the Marines had a time when we was anchored, and you saw a box floating of any kind, they would shoot that box till there was nothing left of it. Because I guess there was cases where somebody was in that box and he got close to a ship, well, he threw an explosive on it.
Sure.
But they told you not to throw anything overboard.
Right.
And so.
Well, thank you very much
Right.
for your stories.
Well, I don't think I've told you any lies.
I bet you haven't. Doesn't sound like it to me. Well, why don't we take just a breather here and we'll regroup,
Okay.
see if somebody wants a drink of water or something, and then we'll do the second part.
Okay.
Okay?
I'm Minnie Crevasse, and today's date is August the 19th, 2015. We're here at the Cedar Key Historical Museum in the Andrews House to interview Mr. Waylon Wadley, who was born and raised here in Cedar Key. And you just finished telling us about your World War II experience, and now we would like for you to tell us what it was like, what Cedar Key was like, and how you and your memories are for Cedar Key from when you were growing up. And we know your name is Waylon Wadley, but what were your parents' names?
My parents' name was Nina and Edward, and they were married on Siniota, which is an island next to Cedar Keys, but a long time ago.
Now, were they from Cedar Key also, or did they come here from some other place?
Well, as far as I know, they were here. My mother had a brother, Bill DeLena, and they all stayed here. So as far as I know, they've been here a long time. My daddy's folks, as I understand it, he came from England, and during the war or something they had, he was a deserter, and he came to Cedar Keys. So,
Well, now, when you said they got married on Siniota, did they continue to live on Siniota, or did they move over to this island?
no, they moved over to this island. Yeah,
And so they raised their family here.
yeah.
And you had how many siblings, and where are you in that group?
Well, I'm the youngest. I still have one sister that's still living, and she's 96. And the rest of them are dead. So
How many did you have?
I was 4 boys and 3 girls, and I was the youngest. So
Now, what did your daddy do for a living?
as far as I know, he was fished, mullet fished with a net. I never heard him talk about anything else, but I think that was their whole life, just fishing.
Did you help him?
Oh yeah.
So you went to school here,
Yeah.
all the way from elementary through high school?
Right, yeah. I graduated in 1942, and then I left after that. But I was here during the summertime. I always fished, and I learned more about nets and stingeries and crabs and everything else through him. But my mother, she always liked to go with us, and she would sit on the boat and wait till the tide got right. The nets would be down. That's what they call stopping up. And you put the nets down on high tide, and then low tide you work the fish up so you can cast them out with a cast net. And she liked to, when the tide was going down, the mullet would jump over the net. And she would like to find a place where they was jumping, and she'd put her boat right up close to that net, and then fish would jump in the boat. And but she just enjoyed going with them. Of course, it was just me and her and him. So we didn't stay out. Well, like we went out in the morning, we'd be back by night. And there was one time, there was a bird roost. They call it a bird roost because the company built bird roost, and the birds would light, and then there'd be a barge that would come along and pick up off of that bird roost what them birds had left, put it on the barge, and they sold it for fertilizer. And we went out one time we went before daylight, and we found this bird roost just about sunup. Matter of fact, it was daylight, and we put the nets around this bird roost, and we had a net full of bluefish, and we hauled it all back in the boat. We didn't wait for them to get the fish out of the net because the sharks would come. And we just pulled the nets back in the boat, fish and all, and we went to a Snake Key, and we cleared the nets up and got the fish out. So, but she enjoyed that.
What, was your mother a stay-at-home mother except for helping your father fish? That was the only job that she had?
She never had no job.
Now, where on the island did you live? Where did you grow up?
I don't know how to tell her that.
It's on the corner, the house that you grew up in is on the corner of 4th and G Streets.
Facing Goose Cove.
Yes.
Yeah.
Facing.
I didn't know the number of names of the streets. That didn't tell me anything.
It's a beautiful spot. I know where it is. It's a beautiful spot.
Well,
It's on
the
Goose Cove.
house that I was born in has been sold about 3 times, and the last people that have got it have really fixed it up. It's still good. So
Well, now, when you went to school here, was the school back over here like it is now, or did you go to one of the other buildings that?
no, the school that I went to is in the same place that all the schools are, but since I went to school, it's been burnt down 3 times. So the building that's up there now, I don't know anything about. But the building that I graduated in was a big 2-story building, and it had a big water tower on the grounds next to it. But we had room in back of it to where we played baseball and football. But most of my football days were played over at the airport. The airport was not paved; it was just sand.